The night before my wedding, I heard my dad tell my fiancée, "It'll be our secret." My name is Maxwell. I was 31 years old, worked as a construction supervisor in Kansas City, Missouri, and had spent the better part of a year planning what was supposed to be the best day of my life. I was marrying Vanessa, the woman I had been with for 3 years. She was beautiful, smart, ambitious. Everyone loved her. My dad especially. I had gone back to the venue that Thursday night because I forgot my phone charger in the event coordinator's office. The rehearsal dinner had ended an hour earlier. I figured everyone had left. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few cars scattered under the dim lights. I recognized my dad's truck and Vanessa's sedan. I walked in through the side entrance, the one that led to the hallway behind the main hall. That was when I heard them. Low voices coming from one of the private rooms we had rented for the bridal party. The door was cracked open just enough. "It'll be our secret," my dad said. I froze. Vanessa laughed, not her usual laugh, something softer, more intimate. "You're terrible," she said. "What if someone finds out?" "No one will. Trust me." I stood there for what felt like an eternity, my heart pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. I wanted to push the door open. I wanted to scream, but something stopped me. Some instinct told me to wait, to listen, to be sure. "I feel awful," Vanessa said. "Maxwell's been so good to me." "He doesn't need to know," my dad replied. "What he doesn't know won't hurt him." I backed away slowly, quietly, until I reached the exit. I got in my car and sat there in the dark, staring at nothing. My hands were shaking, my mind was racing. I kept replaying the words over and over. Our secret. He doesn't need to know. I did not sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey I did not open and my phone in my hand. I thought about calling off the wedding. I thought about confronting them both right then. But I did not do either. I just sat there, thinking about everything that had led me to this moment. And I realized something. This was not sudden. There had been signs. Small things I had brushed off because I trusted them both. Because I wanted to believe the best in people. I decided I would wait. I would let them think I knew nothing. And tomorrow at the altar I would make sure everyone knew the truth. My dad and I had always been close. He raised me and my younger sister alone after my mom died when I was 12. Cancer took her in 8 months. He worked 2 jobs to keep us fed and housed. He taught me how to fix engines, how to frame a house, how to shake hands like a man. I respected him more than anyone. When I introduced him to Vanessa, he loved her immediately. He said she reminded him of my mom. Beautiful, strong, knew what she wanted. He said I was lucky. I believed him. Vanessa and I met at a friend's barbecue. She worked in real estate, made good money, drove a car nicer than mine. She said she liked that I worked with my hands, that I was not like the guys in suits she usually met. We moved in together after a year, got engaged 6 months after that. My dad came over for dinner every Sunday. He and Vanessa got along great. Too great, I thought sometimes, but I shoved that feeling down. It was just my insecurity talking. She was friendly. He was lonely. It made sense they would bond. But looking back, I saw it now. The way she always sat next to him at family dinners. The way she texted him more than she texted me some days. The way he always had an excuse to stop by our apartment when I was at work. 3 months before the wedding, Vanessa started acting different, distant. She said she was stressed about work, about the wedding planning. I believed her. I tried to help more. Took on more of the planning. Let her vent when she needed to. My dad offered to pay for part of the wedding. I told him he did not have to, but he insisted, said it was his duty as the father of the groom. He wrote a check for $10,000. I cried when he handed it to me, told him I did not deserve him. 2 weeks before the wedding, I came home early from a job site. Vanessa was on the phone in our bedroom. I heard her say, "I can't keep doing this." Then she saw me and hung up fast, said it was a bridesmaid freaking out about her dress. I did not question it. The rehearsal dinner was perfect. My dad gave a toast, said I was the best son a man could ask for, said Vanessa was going to make me the happiest man alive. Everyone clapped. I hugged him, told him I loved him, and then, hours later, I heard him in that room with my fiancée, talking about secrets. I spent the rest of that night going through my phone, old texts, call logs, anything that might give me a clue. I found nothing. They were smart. If this had been going on, they had covered their tracks. But I knew what I heard. I knew what it meant. I thought about canceling the wedding, calling everyone, telling them the truth. But I had already paid for most of it. The venue, the catering, the band. My dad's $10,000 had gone toward the bar and the flowers. If I called it off now, I would lose everything. And they would get away with it. They would spin some story. Make me look like the unstable one. The one who could not handle the pressure. No, I needed proof. I needed everyone to see what they had done. I waited until morning, got dressed in my tuxedo, drove to the venue. My best man, Colin, met me in the groom's suite. He asked if I was nervous. I said no. He laughed, said I was the calmest groom he had ever seen. Vanessa was in the bridal suite on the other side of the building. I did not go see her. Tradition said I was not supposed to. How convenient. My dad showed up an hour before the ceremony. He clapped me on the shoulder, asked how I was feeling. I looked him in the eye and said I felt great. He smiled, told me he was proud of me. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to scream. But I just nodded and said thank you. The guests started arriving. 200 people, family, friends, co-workers, people I had known my whole life. People who thought they were here to celebrate love. I stood at the altar with the officiant and my groomsmen. The music started. The bridesmaids walked down the aisle. Then Vanessa appeared at the entrance, my dad walking beside her. He was giving her away. I had asked him 2 months ago. He had cried when I asked, said it would be an honor. They walked down the aisle together. Vanessa smiled at me. My dad smiled at me. I smiled back. When they reached the altar, my dad kissed Vanessa on the cheek and handed her to me. Our hands touched. Hers were cold. The officiant started talking. I barely heard him. My heart was pounding. My hands were sweating. I looked out at the crowd. Everyone was watching us, waiting for the vows. The officiant turned to me, asked if I had anything I wanted to say before we began. I nodded, pulled a folded piece of paper from my jacket pocket. I had written it that morning. I looked at Vanessa, then at my dad sitting in the front row, and I started to read. First, I want to thank everyone for coming, I said. My voice was steady, clear. It means a lot to see so many people here to support us. Vanessa smiled. She had no idea. I also want to thank my dad, I continued, for everything, for raising me, for teaching me what it means to be a man, for being there when I needed him. My dad nodded. He looked proud. And I want to thank Vanessa, I said, for 3 years of memories, for teaching me what love is supposed to look like. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. But I cannot marry you today, I said. The room went silent. Vanessa's face went white. My dad sat up straighter in his seat. Last night I went back to the venue to get something I forgot, I said, and I overheard a conversation between you, Vanessa, and you, Dad. My dad stood up. Maxwell, what are you? Sit down, I said. My voice was louder now, harder. He sat. I heard you tell her it'll be our secret, I said. I heard you say what he doesn't know won't hurt him. Vanessa started crying. Maxwell, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked. Because it sounded pretty clear to me. She did not answer. She just stood there, tears running down her face, her bouquet shaking in her hands. I looked at my dad. You paid for part of this wedding. You walked her down the aisle. You looked me in the eye this morning and told me you were proud of me, and the whole time you were lying. Son, please, my dad said. Let's talk about this in private. No, I said. We're going to talk about it right here, in front of everyone. The guests were staring. Some looked shocked. Some looked confused. My sister was crying in the third row. I do not know how long this has been going on, I said. I do not know if it was physical. I do not know if it was emotional. But I know it was something. And I know you both thought you could hide it from me. Vanessa was sobbing now. Maxwell, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? I asked. Sorry you got caught, or sorry you did it? She did not answer. I looked at my dad. You taught me to be honest, to be loyal, to treat people with respect. And then you did this. He stood up again. Maxwell, you're making a mistake. You're embarrassing yourself. No, I said. You embarrassed me. You humiliated me. You betrayed me. I turned to the crowd. I apologize for wasting your time. There will be no wedding today. But there is food and an open bar, so please stay and enjoy yourselves. It's already paid for. I walked down the aisle. My groomsmen followed. Colin put his hand on my shoulder as we walked out. Did not say a word. Just walked with me. Behind me I heard chaos. Vanessa crying, my dad shouting, guests murmuring, the officiant trying to calm everyone down. I got in my car and drove. I did not know where I was going, I just drove. My phone started ringing, I turned it off. I did not want to hear their excuses. I did not want to hear their apologies. I just wanted to be alone. I checked into a motel on the edge of town, paid cash for 3 nights, sat on the bed and stared at the wall. My tuxedo felt like a costume. I took it off and threw it in the corner. My phone had 57 missed calls by the time I turned it back on, 20 from Vanessa, 15 from my dad, the rest from family and friends. I ignored all of them. I did have one voicemail. From my sister, Lauren. She said she believed me. She said she was sorry. She said she loved me. I saved it. The next morning, I went back to the apartment I shared with Vanessa. She was there. She looked like she had not slept. Her eyes were red and swollen. Maxwell, please, she said. Let me explain. Explain what? I asked. That you were sleeping with my dad? I wasn't, she said. I swear it wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She hesitated, looked down at her hands. He was helping me plan something, for you, for the wedding. It was supposed to be a surprise. I laughed, actually laughed. A surprise, that's your story. It's the truth, she said. We were planning a video montage of your life, from childhood to now. He was helping me gather photos and videos. That's what we were talking about. Then why did he say it would be a secret? I asked. Why did you say you felt awful? Because I felt guilty keeping it from you, she said. You hate surprises. I thought you'd be upset if you found out I was going behind your back. It almost sounded believable. Almost. Show me, I said. What? Show me the video. Show me the photos. Show me proof that's what you were doing. She could not. She said it was on her laptop, that she had not finished it yet, that she needed more time. I told her to get out. She refused, said it was her apartment too. Technically, she was right. Her name was on the lease, but I did not care. Fine, I said. I'll leave. I packed a bag and went back to the motel. I needed time to think, to figure out what to do next. I called a lawyer, a guy I had worked with on a few construction projects. He said I could probably sue for emotional distress, but he also said it would be hard to prove, that it was my word against theirs. What about text messages? I asked. Phone records? If you can get them, maybe, he said, but if they were careful, there might not be anything there. I hung up. I felt stuck, trapped. I had exposed them in front of everyone, but I had no proof. Just a conversation I overheard, just my gut telling me something was wrong. 2 days later, I went to my dad's house. He answered the door looking tired, older than I remembered. We need to talk, I said. He let me in. We sat in his living room, the same room where we used to watch football. where he taught me how to play poker, where he told me about my mom after she died. Tell me the truth, I said. What were you and Vanessa doing? He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, I was helping her leave you. I did not move, did not speak, just stared at him. She came to me 2 months ago, he said. Told me she was having second thoughts about the wedding, that she wasn't sure if she loved you anymore. She asked me what she should do. And you told her what? I asked. I told her to be honest with you, to call off the wedding if that's what she wanted. But she was scared. Scared of hurting you. Scared of what people would think. So you helped her, I said. I tried to help both of you, he said. I thought if I could talk to her, figure out what was really going on, maybe I could fix it. Maybe I could save your relationship. By meeting her in secret, I said. By telling her to keep things from me. I was trying to protect you, he said. No, I said. You were trying to play God. You were trying to control the situation, and you made it worse. He did not argue, just sat there with his head in his hands. Was there anything physical between you two? I asked. No, he said. Never. I swear on your mother's grave. I wanted to believe him. Part of me did. But I did not know if I could trust anything he said anymore. She left town, he said, yesterday. Said she couldn't stay here after what happened. She went back to her parents' place in Omaha. Good. I did not want to see her again. And what about you? I asked. What are you going to do? I don't know, he said. I messed up, Maxwell. I know that. I was trying to help and I made everything worse. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said. I know, he said. I stood up. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I want to. I understand, he said. I walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You taught me that family comes first, that loyalty matters, that you never betray the people you love, and then you did exactly that. I wasn't trying to betray you, he said. I was trying to save you from getting hurt. Well, you failed, I said. Because I'm more hurt now than I ever would have been if she had just told me the truth. I left, got in my car, drove back to the motel. I sat there for hours, thinking about everything he said, trying to decide if I believed him. I wanted to. I wanted to believe he was just trying to help, that there was nothing more to it. But the way Vanessa laughed that night, the way she said he was terrible, it felt like more than just planning an exit strategy. I called my sister, told her everything my dad said. She listened without interrupting. Do you believe him? She asked when I finished. I don't know, I said. I do, she said. I think he was trying to help, but I also think he went about it the wrong way. He should have told you what Vanessa said. He should have let you handle it. She was right. Even if his intentions were good, he betrayed my trust. He made decisions about my life without involving me, and that was unforgivable. What are you going to do? Lauren asked. I don't know, I said, but I'm not going back to either of them. 3 weeks after the wedding that never happened, I got a call from Colin. He said Vanessa had posted something on social media, a long explanation about what happened, about how she and my dad were innocent, about how I had overreacted and ruined everything. I did not read it, but apparently a lot of people did, and they believed her. I got messages from relatives I barely knew, old friends, people telling me I owed her an apology, that I was cruel for humiliating her, that I should have handled it privately. I did not respond to any of them. But Lauren did. She posted her own message, explaining that she had talked to both me and our dad, that she knew the full story, that Vanessa had been planning to leave me and that Dad had been helping her in secret, that I had every right to call off the wedding the way I did. The tide turned. People started taking my side, started questioning Vanessa's version of events. She deleted her post within a day. My dad called me after that. Said people were asking him questions. Said he was getting judged at church, at the hardware store, everywhere he went. I told them the truth, he said, that I was trying to help you, but they don't believe me. They think I was having an affair with your fiancé. That's what you get, I said. That's what happens when you lie, when you sneak around. People assume the worst. He did not argue, just said he was sorry again and hung up. I did not feel good about it, did not feel vindicated, just felt tired. Tired of the whole situation, tired of defending myself, tired of explaining. I wanted it to be over, and finally, it was starting to be. 6 weeks after everything fell apart, I moved to Denver. Got a job with a construction company that had been trying to recruit me for a year. Better pay, better hours, a fresh start. I heard through Lauren that Vanessa got engaged again, to some guy she met in Omaha. They were getting married in the spring. I did not care, did not feel jealous or angry, just felt nothing. My dad and I talked once a month, short conversations, surface level. He asked how work was. I told him it was fine. He told me about his garden, about the weather, about nothing that mattered. Lauren said he looked older, that he seemed lonely, that he asked about me all the time, but I was not ready to forgive him. Maybe I never would be. I dated a little, nothing serious. I was not ready for that yet. Maybe I would not be for a long time, but I was okay. I had a good job, a decent apartment, friends who supported me. That was enough. One night I drove past a wedding venue on my way home from work. Saw a bride and groom standing outside taking photos. The bride was laughing. The groom looked happy, real happy. I thought about what my wedding was supposed to be, what it could have been if Vanessa had just been honest, if my dad had just stayed out of it. But then I thought about what it turned into, the chaos, the exposure, the truth coming out in the worst possible way. And I realized something. I dodged a bullet. If I had married her, if I had never found out, I would have spent years wondering, doubting, feeling like something was off. At least now I knew. And I was free. Vanessa's engagement lasted 4 months before her new fiancé found out she had been texting her ex behind his back. He called it off publicly, and she moved back to Kansas City, where no one wanted anything to do with her. She lost most of her clients in real estate after word spread about what happened. Last I heard, she was working retail and living with a roommate. My dad became a pariah in his church community. People stopped inviting him to gatherings. He tried to explain himself, but the damage was done. He sold his house and moved 2 towns over where no one knew his name. Lauren visits him sometimes, says he looks broken, says he regrets everything. I believe her. But I still have not gone to see him. People ask me sometimes if I regret calling off the wedding the way I did, if I wish I had handled it differently. The answer is no. They deserved to be exposed. They deserved to feel the weight of their choices in front of everyone who mattered. I learned something that day at the altar. That trust once broken can never be fully repaired. That some betrayals cut too deep to forgive. And that sometimes, walking away is the only way to save yourself. The GPS said the same thing every morning for 3 weeks. Return to 428 Maple Grove Lane. My name is William. I am 27 years old, and I bought this truck off Craigslist for $4,000 because my old sedan died and I needed something reliable for work. I drive delivery routes for Halberd Design in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The truck ran fine, no mechanical issues. Just this one strange thing with the navigation system. I tried resetting it. I deleted the address manually. I even pulled the fuse and let the whole system reboot. Every time I started the engine, within 5 minutes, that address appeared on the screen with a calm female voice saying, "Return to 428 Maple Grove Lane." At first, I thought it was a glitch. Maybe the previous owner had programmed it as a favorite location and it got stuck in the system somehow. I looked up the address online. It was a residential street on the east side of town, near the old industrial district. Nothing special about it, just a regular neighborhood. I asked my roommate about it. He thought it was funny, said maybe the truck was haunted. I did not find it funny. I found it annoying, but I also found it hard to ignore. The truck had belonged to a man named Peter. That was all the Craigslist ad said. No last name, no backstory, just a phone number and a price. When I met him to buy it, he was around 60 years old, gray hair, quiet. He barely said 10 words to me, handed over the title, took the cash, and walked away. I remember thinking he looked sad, but I did not ask why. 3 weeks in, I started noticing other things, small things. A faded St. Christopher medal hanging from the rearview mirror. A scratch on the dashboard that looked deliberate, like someone had carved initials into it, but they were worn down now, unreadable. A smell in the cabin that reminded me of old leather and something else I could not place. Aftershave, maybe. Then one morning I was sitting in the driveway drinking coffee before my shift, and the GPS turned on by itself. The engine was not even running. The screen lit up and that address appeared again. This time, the voice was different. It sounded almost urgent. Return to 428 Maple Grove Lane. I sat there staring at it for a long time. My hand was shaking a little when I set the coffee down. I did not believe in ghosts or anything like that. But I also did not believe in coincidences anymore. Something was pulling me to that address, and I knew I had to go. I grew up in Rapid City with my mom and my older sister Jenna. My dad left when I was 8, just walked out one day and never came back. My mom told me he had his reasons, but she never said what they were. For years I wondered if it was my fault, if I had done something wrong, if I had been a better kid, maybe he would have stayed. I stopped asking about him when I turned 15. My mom looked too tired every time his name came up. Jenna told me to let it go. She said some people were not meant to be in your life, and trying to hold on to them just made everything worse. I believed her. I moved on. When I turned 18, I joined the Army. 4 years of service. I did my time, came back home, and tried to figure out what came next. I bounced around a few jobs before landing the delivery gig with Halberd Design. It paid the bills. It kept me busy. That was enough. I had never been the kind of person who asked too many questions. I took things at face value. If someone told me something, I believed them unless I had a reason not to. That was how I operated. It made life simpler. But this truck situation was different. It felt personal, like something was reaching out to me specifically. And the more I tried to ignore it, the louder it got in my head. I started having dreams about the address. Not nightmares exactly, but strange, disjointed images. A front porch with peeling paint. A man standing in a doorway. A kid riding a bike down the street. None of it made sense, but it felt familiar in a way I could not explain. One night I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I found an old photo album my mom had given me years ago. I had not looked at it in forever. Most of the pictures were from when I was a baby or a toddler. My mom holding me, Jenna making faces at the camera, and then I found one that stopped me cold. It was a picture of my dad. He was standing next to a truck. Not the same model as mine, but close. Same color, same general shape. He was smiling, one hand on the hood, the other holding a set of keys. I stared at that photo for a long time. My chest felt tight. My hands were sweating. The next morning I called in sick to work. I got in the truck, started the engine, and let the GPS guide me to 428 Maple Grove Lane. The house was smaller than I expected. Single story, pale yellow siding, a chain-link fence around the front yard. The lawn needed mowing. There was a dented mailbox at the curb with no name on it. I parked across the street and sat there for a while, engine idling, hands gripping the steering wheel. A man walked out onto the porch. He was older, maybe mid-60s, with gray hair and a flannel shirt. He stood there looking at me, not moving, not waving, just looking. I turned off the engine. My heart was pounding. I opened the door and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The man walked down the porch steps slowly, like his knees hurt. He stopped at the edge of the yard and stared at me for a long moment. Then he reached into his back pocket and pulled out a photograph. He held it up so I could see. It was a picture of a kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Dark hair, big eyes, wearing a red jacket. I recognized the jacket. I remembered it. I had worn that jacket when I was little. My mom had bought it for me at a thrift store because I loved the color. The man lowered the photograph. His voice was quiet, almost hoarse. "You look just like him." I did not say anything. I could not. My throat felt like it was closing up. He took a step closer. "You are William." It was not a question. He knew. I nodded. My voice came out thin and shaky. "Who are you?" He looked down at the photograph in his hand. His jaw tightened. When he looked back up at me, his eyes were wet. "My name is Peter. I was your father's best friend." The world tilted. I grabbed the door of the truck to steady myself. Peter kept talking. His words came out slow, like he had been carrying them for too long and they were too heavy to hold anymore. "Your dad died 6 years ago. Heart attack. He was living here with me at the end. He talked about you all the time. Wanted to reach out, but he thought it was too late. Thought you would hate him. When he passed, I kept some of his things. That truck was his. I sold it last month because I could not look at it anymore. But I programmed the GPS before I let it go. I did not know if you would come, but I hoped." I stood there on the sidewalk staring at this man who had just ripped open every wound I thought I had closed. Peter looked at me with something that might have been guilt or grief or both. "I think he wanted you to come back." I did not go inside right away. I sat back down in the truck and tried to breathe. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight, like something was squeezing it from the inside. Peter stood on the porch watching me. He did not say anything. He just waited. After a few minutes, I got out again and walked across the street. My legs felt heavy. Every step took more effort than it should have. Peter opened the front door and gestured for me to come in. The house smelled like coffee and old wood. The furniture was worn but clean. There were photos on the walls. None of them were of my dad. Peter led me to a small dining table and pulled out a chair. I sat down. He disappeared into another room and came back with a cardboard box. He set it on the table in front of me. "These were his," Peter said quietly. "I thought maybe you would want them." I stared at the box. I did not open it. Peter sat down across from me. He poured himself a cup of coffee from a pot on the counter and did not offer me any. I did not want any anyway. "Why did he leave?" I asked. My voice sounded hollow. Peter exhaled slowly. He looked older than he had outside. Tired. He had problems. Drinking mostly. Your mom tried to help him, but he would not listen. He said he did not want you growing up watching him fall apart. So he left. He thought it was the right thing to do. I clenched my fists under the table. It was not the right thing. Peter nodded. "I know. I told him that 100 times, but he did not believe me. He thought you were better off without him." "I spent half my life wondering what I did wrong," I said. My voice was louder now, angrier. "I thought it was my fault. I thought he left because I was not good enough." Peter looked down at his coffee. "It was never your fault." "Then why did he not come back?" Peter was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "He tried. Twice. Once when you were 12 and again when you were 16. Both times he stood outside your house and could not bring himself to knock on the door. He said he did not deserve to be in your life. He said he had already done enough damage." I felt something crack inside me. Not just anger. Something deeper. Something I had been holding on to for years without realizing it. "That was not his choice to make," I said. Peter nodded again. "You are right. It was not." I stood up. I needed to move. I could not sit there anymore. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. My truck was still parked across the way. The GPS was probably still showing that address. Peter cleared his throat behind me. There is something else you should know. I turned around. He was standing now, one hand on the back of his chair. Your dad was sick for the last 2 years of his life. Cancer. He knew he was dying, but he did not want to reach out to you like that. He did not want you to feel obligated to take care of him. So he stayed quiet. And then he was gone. I felt my knees weaken. I sat back down. Peter looked at me with something that might have been pity or understanding or both. I am sorry, William. I should have found you sooner. I opened the box. Inside were a few old photographs, a worn leather wallet, a set of dog tags, and a folded piece of paper. I picked up the photographs first. Most of them were of me as a kid. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings. One of me on my first day of kindergarten holding my mom's hand. My dad must have taken that one. The wallet was empty except for an old driver's license and a faded receipt from a gas station. The dog tags were military issue, same as mine. I held them in my hand for a moment, feeling the weight of them. Then I unfolded the piece of paper. It was a letter, handwritten. The ink was smudged in places like someone had been holding it for a long time. William, if you are reading this, then Peter found you. I asked him to. I did not have the guts to do it myself. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you by leaving. I thought I was doing the right thing at the time, but I was wrong. I was selfish. I was scared. And I let that fear ruin the most important thing in my life. You were always a good kid, smart, kind, stronger than I ever was. I watched you grow up from a distance even though you did not know it. Peter would send me pictures sometimes or tell me stories about what you were doing. I was proud of you. I am proud of you. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not even expect you to remember me. But I need you to know that leaving you was the biggest mistake I ever made. And if I could go back and change it, I would. I hope you are happy. I hope you are living a good life. And I hope that one day you can let go of whatever pain I caused you. I am sorry, son. Dad. I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking, my vision blurred. I set the letter down on the table and pressed my palms against my eyes. Peter did not say anything. He just sat there, waiting. When I finally looked up, my voice was barely a whisper. He watched me grow up? Peter nodded. From a distance. He never approached you directly, but he kept tabs, through me mostly. I would tell him about your high school graduation, your time in the army when you moved to Sioux Falls. He knew all of it. I felt a rush of anger and sadness and something else I could not name. It was too much. All of it was too much. Why did you not tell me sooner? I asked. My voice was sharper now. Why wait until I bought his truck and showed up here by accident? Peter looked down at his hands. Because he asked me not to. He made me promise that I would not reach out to you unless you came looking first. He did not want to force himself back into your life. He thought you deserved to choose whether or not you wanted to know him. I shook my head. That is not a choice. That is just more running away. Peter did not argue. He just sat there, looking tired and old. I stood up and walked toward the door. I needed air. I needed space. Peter called after me. William, wait. I stopped but did not turn around. There is more, he said. About why he left. About what he was running from. If you want to know, I will tell you. I looked back at him. His face was pale. His hands were trembling slightly. Tell me, I said. Peter led me to a small office in the back of the house. There was a desk covered in papers, a filing cabinet in the corner, and a corkboard on the wall with old photographs pinned to it. He pulled a folder from one of the drawers and handed it to me. Inside were documents, legal papers, court records, medical reports. Your dad was not just an alcoholic, Peter said. He had PTSD from his time in the military. He never dealt with it, never got help, and it got worse after you were born. He started drinking more, started having nightmares. Your mom tried to get him into therapy, but he refused. He said he could handle it on his own. I flipped through the papers. There were hospital admission forms, police reports. One of them mentioned a DUI. Another mentioned a bar fight. My dad had a record I never knew about. Peter continued. He was ashamed. He did not want you to see him like that. So he left. He thought if he was not around, you would have a better chance at a normal life. He thought he was protecting you. I set the folder down on the desk. My jaw was tight. He was wrong. Peter nodded. I know. I told him that. But he did not listen. He was too deep in his own head, too convinced that he was the problem. I looked at the corkboard. There were photos of my dad when he was younger, smiling, healthy. One of them showed him holding a baby. Me, probably. He looked happy in that photo, like he had everything figured out. What happened after he left? I asked. Peter sat down in the desk chair. He looked exhausted. He moved around a lot for the first few years. Different jobs, different towns. He kept drinking, kept spiraling. Then about 10 years ago, he hit rock bottom. Ended up homeless for a while. That is when I found him. I brought him here, got him into rehab, helped him get back on his feet. He stayed sober for 3 years. Longest stretch he ever had. And then he got sick. Cancer. Stage 4. He fought it for a while, but it was too far gone. He spent the last 6 months of his life in that bed. Peter pointed toward the hallway. He talked about you every day, wanted to call you, wanted to write you, but he could not bring himself to do it. He said he did not want your last memory of him to be some dying stranger asking for forgiveness. I felt something break inside me, not anger this time, just grief, raw and heavy. He should have called, I said. My voice cracked. Peter looked at me with wet eyes. I know. I stood there for a long time, staring at the photos on the corkboard. My dad's life, laid out in pieces. A man I never really knew, a man who never gave me the chance to know him. Peter stood up and put a hand on my shoulder. He loved you, William. He was just too broken to show it. I did not say anything. I could not. Peter walked out of the room, leaving me alone with the photos and the papers and the weight of everything I had just learned. I picked up the folder again and looked through it one more time. At the bottom, there was a small envelope. I opened it. Inside was a key, no label, no explanation. I held it up to the light. It looked like a storage unit key. Peter appeared in the doorway. I forgot about that. It is for a unit across town. He kept some things there. I never went through it. I thought maybe you should. The storage unit was in a rundown facility on the south side of town, the kind of place with rusted gates and flickering lights. Peter gave me the address and the unit number, but he did not come with me. He said it was not his place. I drove there alone. The GPS stayed silent this time. The unit was small. Number 42. I unlocked it and pulled up the metal door. It screeched on its hinges. Inside were boxes. Not many. Maybe 6 or 7. There was also a duffel bag and an old military footlocker. I opened the footlocker first. Inside were more photos, letters, some addressed to me that were never sent. I sat down on the concrete floor and read through them. Each one was an apology. Each one was a goodbye he never had the courage to send. One of them stood out. It was dated 2 weeks before he died. William, I do not have much time left. The doctors say maybe a month, maybe less. I thought about calling you 100 times. I picked up the phone. I dialed the number. But I always hung up before it rang. I am a coward. I always have been. But I want you to know something. I want you to know that leaving you was not because I did not love you. It was because I loved you too much. I did not want you to grow up watching me destroy myself. I thought I was sparing you. I was wrong. If you ever find this, I hope you can forgive me. Not for my sake, for yours. I hope you have a good life, son. I hope you find peace. Dad. I folded the letter and put it back in the footlocker. My chest ached. My eyes burned. But I also felt something else. Something like closure. I spent the next 2 hours going through the rest of the boxes. There were more photos, some old tools, a framed certificate from his time in the army, a medal I did not recognize, and at the bottom of one of the boxes there was a small wooden box with my name carved into the lid. I opened it carefully. Inside was a watch, silver, with a leather band. There was an inscription on the back, "To William, from Dad, always." I held it in my hands for a long time. It was simple, nothing fancy. But it meant something. It meant he had been thinking about me, even when he was too afraid to reach out. I put the watch on. It fit perfectly. I packed everything back up except for the letters and the watch. I locked the unit and drove back to Peter's house. When I got there, he was sitting on the porch, same as before. I sat down next to him. Neither of us said anything for a while. Finally, Peter spoke. "Did you find what you were looking for?" I looked down at the watch on my wrist. "I think so." Peter nodded. "He would have been glad you came." I believed him. We sat there in silence as the sun started to set. The street was quiet. The air smelled like rain. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Peter eventually went inside. I stayed on the porch a little longer, watching the sky turn orange and purple. I thought about my dad, about the choices he made, about the life he lived and the life he missed out on. I did not forgive him. Not yet. But I understood him. And that was a start. Peter passed away 8 months later, heart failure. He left me the house in his will. I did not expect it. I also did not refuse it. I moved in a few weeks after the funeral. I kept most of his things, the furniture, the photos, the coffee pot that was older than I was. It felt wrong to throw any of it away. I also kept the truck. I never fixed the GPS. I let it keep saying the same thing every morning. Return to 428 Maple Grove Lane. Now it felt less like a haunting and more like a reminder. My mom came to visit once. She walked through the house slowly, touching things, looking at the photos on the walls. She cried when she saw the picture of my dad holding me as a baby. She said she was glad I found him, even if it was too late. Jenna came too. She was quieter about it. She stood in the doorway of the office and said, "He really loved you, you know." I nodded. I know. The letters my dad wrote sat in a drawer in the office. I read them sometimes, not often, just when I needed to remember that he tried even if he failed. I started wearing the watch every day. It became part of me, a piece of him I could carry without the weight of his mistakes. I thought about reaching out to other family members, people my dad might have known, but I decided against it. This story was not about finding more answers. It was about accepting the ones I already had. One morning, I was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee when a kid rode by on a bike. He waved at me. I waved back. It reminded me of the dreams I had before I came to this house. The images that did not make sense at the time. They made sense now. I thought about my dad standing outside my house when I was 12, too scared to knock, too ashamed to face me. I wondered what would have happened if he had, if things would have been different. Maybe they would have. Maybe they would not have. All I knew was that I stopped blaming him. I stopped blaming myself. I sold the delivery truck I had been driving for work and kept my dad's truck instead. I still drove routes for Halberd Design, but now I drove them in a truck that meant something. Every time the GPS turned on and said, "Return to 428 Maple Grove Lane," I smiled, because I was already there. The antagonist in this story was not a person. It was fear. My dad's fear of facing me, my fear of not being good enough, Peter's fear of breaking a promise. Fear took my dad away from me. Fear kept him from reaching out. Fear made him die alone, carrying regrets he never got to resolve. But fear did not win in the end, because I came back. I found him. And even though he was gone, I got to know him. I got to understand him. And that was something fear could never take away. My dad spent his last years wishing he had been braver, wishing he had knocked on that door, wishing he had made a different choice. He did not get that chance. But I did. And I took it. And that made all the difference.